What's happening, driver? Hey, I got the video finished. I'm gonna pick up right as I was leaving the scales because there was a couple things that I got a lot of questions on and I didn't explain real well in the video, specifically talking about the number of straps I needed for this load. So you're required to have one strap for every 10 feet of load length. So this being 100 feet, I needed 10 straps or tie downs or chains or whatever, just over the top, securing the load to the trailer. Now, if your trailer has a headboard on it, then 10 straps is what you need. If your trailer is missing a headboard, like mine are, I have no headboard on my trailer, then you need one extra strap within the first 10 feet of the load, or the 10 feet of the trailer. So I had plenty of straps, but I needed one extra because I was missing that headboard. And I was under the impression that putting that chain around the front of the load would count as securement. But since it didn't go through the load, it didn't count as securement. So that is where the question and the vague gray area was a little bit on that. They were really cool about it. They just said, hey, throw one more strap and we know you'll have plenty and that'll be sufficient for the requirements of tie downs. So no headache rack, 100-foot long load requires 11. I'm sorry, not a headache rack, a headboard. I have a headache rack attached to the truck. A headboard is attached to the trailer. So since I had no headboard, I needed an extra strap. The chain I thought would suffice. That's where we had the confusion. That's what happened. That's why I threw an extra strap. And this is when I took off. There, my flags are now at the outermost part of the load. And I added one more strap, so now I have 11, which is what I thought I had, but that chain doesn't count, of course. Doesn't matter where I put this strap. But I'm going to tell you one thing, you are not doing your job. Your job is to charm people and to get them to smile and let me go. On the road, no harm, no foul, took about 45 minutes. I wanted to get a very thorough explanation as to what they want, what they're looking for, and to avoid these conversations in the future. I got a little clarification on the tie down for the chain on the front, and now I will no longer do it the way I have it here and let that be considered a tie down. And so from now on, they will all go through the load. I'm not too far away from where I hit that deer. I'm curious if there's going to be a deer carcass laying on the roadside or not. Well, there is no carcass that I can see, so I am assuming that the deer escaped with its life. I don't know how it did it. It's going to be missing a few teeth, but it appears to have lived through the incident. All right. So an area not far from here in eastern Idaho, kind of where I was this morning, last week, like 4 days ago literally, they received a massive torrential thunderstorm. It caused flooding.
It's been a severe weather day here in Idaho. We've had on and off rain, thunderstorms passing through parts of Idaho in the last hour. This is some video that you're seeing that we have received.
It was small hail, but a ton of it. Some places got over and from anywhere between 1.25 inches to 1.5 inches of rain in just a matter of a few minutes. Owyhee County, which we came through last night, recorded 553 lightning strikes during the storm cell that passed through. But it brings to mind something that happened here in eastern Oregon back in the early 1900s, about 4 years ago. Just south and a little west of the town of Pendleton, here in eastern Oregon, I'm in Pendleton right now, was the town of Heppner. Well, the town is still there, but in 1903, it was the site of the worst non-man-made natural disaster in history, United States history. Now, by non-man-made, I mean it wasn't caused by a dam break. It was caused by a thunderstorm that rolled through here and completely inundated the area. Back in 1903, Heppner was a bustling little community. It had about 1,300 residents, and it was a popular town. Hold on. You're making it hard to concentrate, dude. Yeah. The bunch grass in this area is hardy. It survives well with low water, and this was all public land, so there was really very little incentive to not overgraze it. And this area basically became the sheep capital of the West, I read, and they overgrazed it. So that took all of this grass that usually would catch the rain when it would fall, which wasn't that often, and then the water would soak into the ground. But with all this grass being gone, there was nothing to slow water down. And on June 14th, on a hot day, a storm came through town. It was about 4:30 in the afternoon when it started to rain, and within about a half an hour, it turned to hail, and the hail poured down. And that is part of the reason why the tragedy became so huge. Everybody took shelter inside, and the racket, the just tremendous noise that the hail made bouncing off of all the wood and tin hid the huge roar of the oncoming flood. On the outskirts of Heppner, there are two creeks that intersect, kind of like a T. And the one creek, Belm Creek, merged into Willow Creek. Now, Belm Creek is the one that had the majority of the water. It was clogging up every fence line, every bush, every tree, and everything that it hit would hold the water up for just a few more seconds while more water and pressure gathered up behind it. And when it hit the intersection, the T, onto Willow Creek, it formed a whole new cove on the opposite side of the bank. And the swirling water, again, just delayed the inevitable while more and more pressure built up. It then made the trip down into Heppner, and they estimate that the wall of fence, mud, trees, bushes, livestock, animals that was pouring into town was 30 to 40 feet high, and they didn't hear it coming. There were a few people in town who were higher up on the hills and were able to see what was coming, and one man jumped on his horse, possibly two men, jumped on their horses and ran through town yelling, "Flood, flood, run for the hills, run for the hills." These two men, identities were never found. The men did not survive, and they were most likely caught in the flood and killed, but nobody knows who they were. There were nearly 250 fatalities in the town, nearly a quarter of the population. And once it was over with, they had the gruesome task of cleanup. There was a little newspaper article about it from back then, and here's what it said. Scenes at Heppner are indescribable in their gruesomeness, their anguish, and their awful desolation. No pen can exaggerate the horrors they present. Every heap of debris may contain a human forming decomposition. Many do reveal such spectacles when uncovered, and meantime Willow Creek, as if to mock the dead, has returned to just a babbling brook. The other unfortunate part of this is that many of the dead were babies and toddlers, and it was just horrible anguish for everybody involved. Now, there was a pot passed around, a kitty passed around in Portland, and they raised so much money that Heppner actually gave some of it back and said save it for the next tragedy. But it was a very, very horrible thing. The town has survived. In the 80s, they built a dam that dammed up Willow Creek to prevent this from ever happening to the town of Heppner again. And the area where those two creeks intersected is now underwater. What a horrible, horrible thing to have gone through. And not to take away from that, there was one with a higher fatality rate in Pennsylvania, but that was due to a dam breaking. Of course, all the debris is gone, all the cleanup has been done, but there is still a very stark reminder of what happened if you visit the cemetery that is on a hillside north of town, where headstone after headstone has the same date. Pretty horrible, a story I didn't know anything about until I was kind of poking around about this area and found what a weird correlation between something that happened just last week very nearby in western Idaho, compared to this story in eastern Oregon. But I wanted to share that with you. Well, I've got some bad news for me. It turns out that me making friends and shaking hands and stuff at the port of entry this morning has delayed me enough that I'm gonna miss my delivery window for today. They're gonna be gone about 45 minutes before I get there today. So I'm not gonna get unloaded today. I don't know, just everything happens for a reason, I guess. And I'm gonna be spending the night at the job site just like I did a few weeks ago. But I'll be unloaded about 6 in the morning and headed home. Looks familiar, doesn't it? They've done a little bit of work since we were here last. See the girders that go in between the columns, and then the joists that go in between the girders. And then they've started putting up panels of roofing. We're done with this one for now. I think we're done with this one for good. On to the next one. It's kind of weird to drive 500 miles for the day, get here at 2:30 and be late. But that's what it is. We'll get unloaded. They'll be here at 6 in the morning and we'll get unloaded. I'll see you then. Good morning from Auburn, Washington. And it begins. It's almost 6 o'clock. The guys are here. We are pretty much lined up. Pretty much lined up with where I need to be. This load is gonna go onto this pile. Yeah. Jimmy just asked if I would scoot over here more, and then they're just gonna pick them up and I'm gonna pull out from underneath them. So, you know what I need to do first though? Hold on. They're gonna get a sticker on this load. And since I don't wanna climb on anything, I think they're gonna get it right here. We wanna make sure it stays on there for a long time. That's not graffiti. That's not graffiti. I don't know what the definition of graffiti is, but if you can take it off, it's not graffiti. Not graffiti. And that concludes this episode of Auburn, Washington, what I believe to be the last episode of Auburn, Washington. I forgot to mention, I'm wearing a sweatshirt. It's like 50 degrees and breezy here. It's cold. And now we're gonna get back into the desert, and we're gonna get hot, and we're gonna do the 4th of July stuff. Let's go home and do it. No backhaul, nothing ever materialized, and that's fine. I wanna go home. Let's go home. Hold that thought. I've got a leaking airline. That's cool. Holy crap. I have 100 feet of this air hose at home. I think I need to go home. That's not gonna disable me, but yeah. so I see something else. I actually noticed this a little bit ago, but it's gotten worse. One of the new shocks I put on here in January is leaking, and that shock is not doing what a shock is supposed to do. Looks like I'm doing shocks and airlines for the 4th of July. I've decided to go home a different way than the way that I came. It's a little bit shorter miles wise, and probably the same time wise. With this air hose leaking, I kind of wanted to be in a little more populated area if I needed help. I do have some union fittings for air hose that I believe are the right size. I'm not positive, but if it turns out they're not the right size, I'd like to be near a dealership to get the part I need, or a parts house or something like that. So I'm gonna go this way. The air compressor is keeping up with it. It's leaking down and then building up and leaking down. It's not a hard fix, it's just one I gotta do. And then there's this guy over here. Gary, will you fix my truck, please? What are you doing here? Gary. He ain't doing much, that's for sure. Yeah, I decided to make a quick pit stop at a truck stop. Can't really see it, but I've decided to little Gorilla Tape, brake cleaner, a hose clamp. I've got the leak down to a small squeal, just a really small squeak, and I feel a lot more comfortable with it. So I think I'm gonna probably push it for home tonight. Just a little over it. Got a lot to do tomorrow now, and then hopefully I can take Friday and Saturday off. We'll see. Okay, I'm gonna get some fuel while we're here, and let's see if we can't get home. So I'm parked at a Pilot to do this quick repair. I get a good discount on fuel, is why I will burn through here and fill up the tanks and haul ass. I don't generally like to give the Pilot much of my business. I think their parking lots are ridiculous and dirty, but look at this guy parked next to me, or next to whatever. First of all, obviously some kind of change of business right there. We are having you towed in 1 hour. That was 11:42 2 days ago. That's awesome, Pilot. Way to put your bite where your bark is. Oh, and while you're out here writing that, why don't you pick up the piss jug that somebody just dumped out here. Truck stops. I do need to do one more quick welfare check. Just make sure everything's all right. How you doing, dude? You all right? Not missing any fingers, are you? He appears to be healthy. I think he's ready to go home too, even though he had a lot of time off. He's kind of taking a beating. So, home we go. Home we go, in case you didn't hear that. The other thing I want to say is that this dude is so soft. It's a good thing there's only one Gary, because if I had a half a dozen of him, I'd be very tempted to make some slippers. Well, let's see how today is gonna go. Looks like today is gonna go okay. As soon as I knew I was coming back to Auburn this week, I reached out to the broker that I got those giant steel poles from, and she didn't have anything, and that was fine. That was a good weight. That was a good length. It was perfect for this trailer because I can't haul anything that's really that heavy. And sure enough, about 200 miles past Salem, I got a phone call. Hey, I have one of those loads available if you're still interested and in the area. Man, not now. 200 miles past you. What a bummer. Would have turned this into a great week. We have made it home. Yeah, sleep in my own bed tonight. And somebody else down here, come on dude, come on, come on. Somebody else down here is ready to go in the house as well. He's a fun little companion to have. He's pretty cool. All right, I will see you guys tomorrow. I'm back. Got that hose off. Got new hose. I'm going to replace both of them. I got 100 feet of hose. I might as well use it. Fittings. That's my project today. Getting that done. And then Monday, Sunday, we're getting the pickup finalized and ready to go as an escort vehicle. And then Monday, load, and we're back on the road. Heading down back to Los Lunas, and Amy's coming with me. But this week worked out fine. It would have been nice to get a backhaul, but it was also kind of nice just to come home. It's been pretty hectic lately, but all in all, I was going to say no mechanical failures, but we had one rubber hose failure, but we made it home. And we're going to get that fixed up and get back to it. So I hope you guys have a great 4th of July. That's tomorrow. I know I am. I'm going to take the day off and not do nothing. This fix on the truck is going to be pretty quick and pretty simple. So back to work after the 4th. The holidays are out of the way. Summer's in full swing. And I hope you guys have a great and safe 4th of July. Catch you guys later. See ya. In the meantime, keep the bugs off your glass and the bears off your ass. Catch you on the flip-flop.